Roads Australia Fellows. It's a really exciting opportunity for you all to contribute to the health and wellness of your industry. For the next 10, 20 minutes, I'm going to try and give you some information around the background of the state of wellness in infrastructure and why this needs addressing, the importance of leadership from yourselves on addressing this issue, also why the Roads Australia Fellowships are focusing on primary interventions. I'll give you a brief overview of our Victorian working group that's concerned with wellness in infrastructure, and just a little clarification on why we're focusing on white collar workers going forwards in this fellowship. So as a bit of a background, I got involved with the construction infrastructure industry after being invited to a regular meeting of some concerned staff from tier 1, tier 2 companies here in Victoria who were observing some anecdotal evidence of compromised mental health in their white collar infrastructure professionals, their friends, colleagues. They were also seeing a high degree of employee turnover, high rates of absenteeism, and they put this down to the increasing demands of individual jobs, demands on their companies, and just the sector in general. And this was manifesting as a reduction in work-life balance to pretty much everyone that they were working with. They saw the downstream effect of this reduced work-life balance as posing a risk to completion of projects on time and on budget, but they were mostly concerned about their ongoing observations of poor mental health, how that affected job performance, how much their colleagues enjoyed coming to work, and the appearance of their colleagues just being completely burnt out or being cooked, as I learned was a phrase that they like to label the people that were really struggling. So beyond having a chat about this, we felt as though we needed to document the size and the breadth of the problem. So we developed a survey amongst the group of us. Got some buy-in from 8 to 10 big infrastructure companies, and we distributed this survey back in May 2018. It was open for a few weeks, closed up at about middle of the year. We had 8 really strong participating companies. Over 1,000 people signed up to our website to try and complete the survey, and almost 700 of them completed. It's actually 683, which is the largest survey of its kind nationally in this industry. About 200 females completed the survey, almost 500 males. They reported high levels of job security. They felt really valued by their company and thought that the status of their job was appropriate for the work they were doing. So that was some positive news, but almost 60% of them reported just being completely dissatisfied with their work-life balance. More concerningly, their average levels of depression, anxiety and stress exceeded population norms by 40% for depression, 38% for anxiety and 37% for workplace stress. The respondents also reported 2.5 times higher mood disturbance than the normal population. And additionally, their level of physical health complaints, so things you go and see a doctor about, were 50% higher than the normal population. 85% of them reported suffering from moderate to high levels of stress. 46% met the criteria for being completely burnt out. This is a really disturbingly high statistic, given that I was surprised that in the oceanic region, the normal population has a rate of 28% of them are burnt out, which I thought was really high, but when you look at your colleagues in your industry, 46% of them met that same criteria for being burnt out. 64% of people reported working over 50 hours per week. This won't come as a surprise to any of you. And in contrast to the general population, where about 20% of people report being satisfied with their work-life balance, so time at work, time they get to spend with their family, time to sleep, 59% of the respondents in this survey reported being unsatisfied with their work-life balance, as a drastically higher number. So what do all these figures really indicate? To me, the infrastructure, construction, professional staff are highly stressed. They're reporting significantly compromised mental and physical health, have unsatisfactory levels of work-life balance, and drastically high levels of burnout. We put this down to the increasing demands, long hours, time pressure, and expectations to work outside of normal hours that were requiring these employees to provide unsustainable efforts. And this was resulting in their mental and physical damage to themselves, to the workforce generally. So obviously, changes are necessary to protect the health and well-being of this workforce. So moving on to what is the importance of leadership from yourselves in addressing this issue. As I've mentioned, the research indicates that job stress and other work-related psychosocial hazards are emerging as leading contributors to the burden of occupational disease and injury. And work-related stress can also, does have negative impacts on your mental health. If you have a significant amount of workplace stress and have to take some leave, it accounts for about 24 days of work loss for every person affected by significant workplace stress, which is a very large amount of time that you have to take off and projects lose if you're suffering from high degrees of workplace stress. But as fellows, you're uniquely placed and supported in your industry to identify the drivers of reduced wellness and mental health as you're living it day to day. And therefore, you should be able to have an idea of what things could be changed that would benefit yourself, your workmates, and the industry as a whole. For example, after that survey, we ran a series of workshops to try and get to the core of what's actually causing, what are the drivers of the results and what initiatives could also be employed. So got a group of almost 100 people together over 2 days, and we discussed at the individual level, at the organisational level, and at the industry as a whole, what the people in your industry thought were the drivers. So I'll give you a bit of a run through of those. So at the individual level, some real common themes, issues that were identified were time, not having enough time, working long hours, resourcing, a lack of resources, a lack of on-the-job training, empowerment, not being able to do things when needed to, but also having some real individual intrinsic motivation, like really enjoying your job and pushing yourself to deliver on these complex jobs. And disappointingly, poor leadership was identified at the individual level as well. But it wasn't all negative. A lot of the groups saw some simple solutions, such as better work arrangements, being able to turn off at home, maybe companies offering better educational opportunities around mental health and well-being, better education on the job training, how to better complete the job on a day-to-day basis, and also being empowered to maintain your work-life balance. When you need to go home, see your family, take someone to the doctor or whatnot, having an understanding manager or company that empowers you to make those decisions yourself. At the organisational level, some of the issues that were identified were culturally driven, so the culture of working long hours, not taking breaks, no flexible hours, because it's what has always been done, so we might as well keep doing it. Really challenging projects with tight budgets, less staff than would be ideal, just general under-resourcing. Poor communication from at the organisational level, struggling to identify some talent to do jobs well, not being able to get the right type of training so that people were able to cope with the day-to-day demands. But solutions-wise, some of the things that your colleagues came up with were increasing some rewards, recognition, support, resources so that they could get their jobs done easier and more effectively. Some improved flexibility around work hours, and also more accurate accounting of work hours, not just assuming that it's okay to work 12 hours but be paid for your 8. Providing some sort of IT blackout system, and maybe just some improved teamwork just across the organisation. But the best ideas from these focus groups that we found were primary prevention methods, meaning it's better to identify an issue, find a solution before it negatively impacts employees, because by then it's too late. As such, this is why the fellow program is focusing on primary prevention interventions. This can be done in a number of ways and through many methods, which were mostly industry or your sort of organisationally dependent. They can take the form of simple promotion of the mental health benefits of physical activity and good general health, fostering mental health and awareness through training, mental health well-being, encouraging transparent dialogue about such things, nurturing a positive workplace that is transparent and inclusive, developing partnerships and alliances between government, insurers, mental health professionals and other entities to improve communication, engagement and mental health recovery, or like what your projects are charged with doing, creating positive organisational design that directly influences employee motivation, performance and happiness. I also wanted to mention on the back of the survey results and focus groups, we've established a Victorian-based working group to monitor and share the impact of wellness initiatives at an industry level. It comprises 30 members from 8 construction companies. Their role is to generally research what is working in your industry and what isn't, and what programs, initiatives that we should be trying to roll out industry-wide. Once we're able to achieve this, we'll again be able to evaluate the outcomes of programs via a focus group or probably a number of focus groups or a survey. The focus group idea is probably something that you could utilise to evaluate the efficacy of your own project going forward. And lastly, why are we focusing on white collar in your industry? To be honest, before we did our survey, no one was focusing on it, and that was disturbing. And the results indicated that there was a serious problem, the mental health and wellness of these white collar professionals. Importantly, though, the survey was conducted, and equally importantly, it uncovered that white collar infrastructure professionals are highly engaged, motivated, felt really appreciated by their companies. They did, however, report compromised work-life balance, significant mental health challenges, and that they're working to the point of burnout. Unfortunately, this pattern of results is unlikely to be unique to the company sampled and the state of Victoria, which I guess is why we're here today to discuss this fellowship program and wellness in infrastructure. That's about all I really had to pass on to you. I'm open for questions.